about your portfolio. And this will be the point where you talk about things like audits, quality improvement that you've done, things like that. Though for core training, you've been asked to prepare core training in surgery. You've been asked to prepare a leadership sort of speech that you give for 3 minutes and you talk about yourself. So my first piece of advice for this section is some specialties, different people, whether you're going training, non-training, all the person that is sitting in front of you knows about you is what you have told them. That's your application form, that's your CV, that's your portfolio, whatever you submitted. What tends to happen in these situations is you've submitted this application some time ago, interview comes up, you focus on the interview, but then you forget to look through what you've submitted. So strongly, highly, I would recommend whatever you've submitted, portfolio, CV, application, read it before your interview. Go through it carefully. Be very aware of what's gone in there so that you can be ready with answers once you're approached with questions from there. Leadership questions, I had this experience as well, and I was fortunate to be able to take the feedback that I was given. Because we've accomplished things, we tend to not value what we've accomplished anymore. So we talk about leadership, like one easy example I'll give. So when I was talking about my leadership, I was like, oh, I served as a staff governor at Oxford University Hospitals. And the person who was listening to me is like, listen, I've done a lot, and even I have never been staff governor, so you need to highlight that. What I then did during my interview was when I was asked about leadership, I explained. I said it took a lot of courage for me. I was an SHO in Oxford, and it took a lot of courage for me to even apply to be staff governor. And then once I got into the role, I was sitting in a room with the chief executive, the chairman of the board, other governors, and I was an SHO. Yet in that room, I had to find the courage to speak up, to share my opinions, to be able to represent the needs of staff at that meeting. And growing from the point where I was even nervous about applying, to be able to speak in those rooms was a huge journey of growth for me. And I found that it improved my skills as a leader. So in talking about it in that way, I was able to demonstrate that I grew and I am able to grow. I'm able to improve on myself, even as I'm going through something that is challenging, or challenging not in a bad way, but challenging in a way that allows you to grow. So when you talk about your leadership experiences, highlight things. So for example, a lot of people would have run projects or set up things. Why? Why did you do that? And when you did that, what was the impact it had? When it had that impact, how did you grow? And then bring it home. How is that going to serve you in a career, in the job you're applying for? So think about those answers in that way. If you're talking about your portfolio, things you've done, don't just mention them. I'm very proud of this experience that I had. So I can use this example. I didn't say this in my interview because it wasn't asked in that way, but I can say this now. I'm very proud of the project I led. It was a national project, and when I joined my trust, I could see that we were underperforming, and I knew that we could do better. So I approached my consultants, my other colleagues, we formed a team, and we were able to improve our performance in that year based on the quality improvement projects that I designed. This quality improvement project led to the publication of a pathway which was implemented for use in the trust in my department. So talk about things in that way. And then when I was talking about this just now, you could see that I was just talking, I was saying words I had practiced. But during my interview, I was smiling. I was talking about how proud I was, how, enthusiastic I was. And I tell you, all three interviewers in my feedback mentioned my enthusiasm as part of what the outcome of my interview was. We'll come to talk about that shortly, but this is really the meat of what we're doing. It's how you're going to present yourself, how you're going to present your answers, because this is what is going to mean that you rank. At the end of the day, interviews are always a competition, whether it's a training job or a non-training job. You're in a competition and the best person has to win. And you're going into that interview with the mindset that you're the best person for this job and you're going to get the job. And we'll talk about that as we go along, how you carry that mindset and how you make sure that you bring that winning attitude to your interview. The last part of this section is questions or comments to the interviews. This is super, super important because this is, again, another opportunity for you to shine and be memorable. What questions can you ask? So if you're in a training job, you can't, training interview rather, you can't ask questions like, what would a day in the job look like for me? But you can ask questions like, you were in my shoes some years ago. If I'm given the opportunity of this training number, what would be your advice to me for a day one core trainee, registrar, whatever, IMT? If you put your interviewers in that mindset that this person is already envisioning their future as having been successful, you've already raised the bar because your peers are not asking those questions. But for you to be able to ask a question like that, you have to have been answering your questions confidently. You have to feel comfortable. So it also matters how you are interacting with your interviewers up to this point. For my interview at the end, I didn't ask a question. I made a comment. And I said to my interviewers, I was like, this interview is the culmination of a lot of years of work for me. So for me to be in front of you for this interview is a very big achievement for me. And it's a very high pressure moment. And the three of you have made me feel so comfortable during this interview. You've taken all the pressure off with the kind way you've interacted with me during this interview. And I really appreciate that. And they all, like, they were glowing. You could see the joy, like they really appreciated the feedback. And, they were then thanking me and we were thanking each other and saying goodbye, like we had known each other for some time at the end of the interview. So that's the kind of thing you want. You want to use that time to make sure that you're clinching the deal. You're really getting the maximum possible feel goodness that you can get from your interviewers. I remember my non-training job before I got into the training job. In that section, I asked my interviewers, I was like, is there any reason why you would not employ me after this interview? And they burst out laughing. So that section is really yours. That's your time. Make use of it. Don't waste it. Don't let it pass. Don't say, no, thank you, I'm fine. No, use that time and make sure that you make the most of it. So we've talked about this a little bit, and I'll go into a bit more detail. You have a personality. You're not just, even though for the purpose of the interview, you're just a number, just a candidate, just a this, but you're not just any of those things. You are yourself, you are your experiences, you are your culture, you are your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. Bring that with you to the interview. Let them see it. And let them see it in. So one of the things we tend to do when we're answering questions at interviews, we're like, we're like drones almost. We just don't engage, no emotions. And that's fine for like the clinical scenario, because that's not the point to be bringing your personality out. But you see the leadership questions, the management questions, bring yourself to the table. If you're a very empathetic person and you're giving a question about someone is drunk, make it obvious. I'm really concerned about this person. I don't know why they've come to work drunk. I don't know. You can ask them, is this a recurring thing? Is this the first time it's happened? And then they should have an answer for you. But make it evident that this is something that is concerning me for this person. we'll sort out the patients. This is what we'll do for the patients. We'll do this, we'll do that. But for this person, I really need to make sure that they're fine. And, you know, bring that. So whatever your personality is, and don't try to fake it. Don't try to be someone you're not. Be yourself. Bring your true self and let that come across. What people want to see when they advertise and they ask for interviewers, they ask them to come and pick out their future colleagues. So that's the kind of mindset that they've given the interviewers, is these are the people who are going to go through training and going to become consultants alongside you. So they want to see that sort of person that they would enjoy working with. Enthusiasm. I talk about this a lot when I talk about my interviews. Every question that they asked me during the interviews in the management and portfolio section was, I can't wait until I'm a registrar and I can grow more. I'm looking forward to this opportunity. So I kept bringing it back to the fact that this is really what I want to do. I've worked hard to get to this point, to be here because I want this. This is what I want. You know, I used to joke that no one could find anyone more committed to surgery than I was at that point, that you would see my commitment. And like I said, they did see my commitment. Smile, use your smile. So I haven't been smiling a lot because we've been talking like serious stuff, but this is how you smile when you're talking. You can do it. You can smile when you're talking. Your face is relaxed. So an opportunity or an experience that I had, something that I was very proud of, at that point, you smile. You show them that you're actually really proud of this thing that you did. I'm really proud of myself for showing up this morning. It took a lot to get up and do this and make sure that people get this experience, this knowledge shared. So I'm proud of the fact that I did that. That's an example. You smile, you talk about it, you show your passion for what you did and how you can use that passion in surgery, in medicine, wherever you're going with your interview. This is really important. And this is why I said, think about your appearance. If you're a man, you've got full facial hair, you don't know how people feel about the facial hair, trim it, keep it a bit tidy for your interview. If you're a woman, keep your hair nice and simple. You don't know who is interviewing you. You don't know what their biases are. You don't know whether they'll think this or that about you. You have no idea, and you cannot control it. But what you can control is things that you know may cause bias. So if you're female, your appearance and dressing, there are vibes that you can create with your dressing. So think about that. If you're male, you don't want to show up in a rounded t-shirt with frazzled crew neck collar, you know, just be your best self. Project the best version of yourself so that you don't trigger anybody's biases. No matter what happens, you can't control who they are, what their biases are. So forget about it. Put your chin up, put in your best job, and leave the rest of it. It's out of your control. You have no idea who's going to show up to your interview, and it should not matter either way if you're bringing your best self and putting in your best efforts. On interview day, if you're doing some of the sessions, they'll give you 5 minutes to prepare your answers before each station. We've talked about how to use the 5 minutes. If you get that in your interview, think about it, take deep breaths, calm yourself. How you're going to stand out. These are the things we've talked about. Bring your personality, show your enthusiasm, smile, ask a really good question or make a really good comment at the end. Make yourself memorable. Have a self-rescue plan. So one of the things that can happen during the interviews, you're opening your mouth and you're hearing yourself say things that make no sense whatsoever, things that don't align with what you've prepared. 2 options. If you realize that during the session, ask for a break, ask to start over. If you've got water next to you, which you should, have a sip of water. That gives you time to regroup, recollect yourself. If the entire station finishes, which is what happened to me with my management station, entire station went bad. Once you finish that station, let it go. It's done. You can't turn back time, but you can get your head back in the game and make sure that your last station goes really well. So do that. I haven't got, there's a slide missing that's really important. It may come up later, but I'll talk about it now anyway. And that's your physiology. Sort out your physiology. And what do I mean by that? Make sure you're not hypoglycemic. Make sure you don't need the toilet in any way. Number one or number two, sort all of that out before your interview. Sometimes you might have problems like your voice trembling and things. There are voice exercises, breathing exercises you can do to calm your nerves. Have thoughts, your go-to thoughts to calm yourself, box breathing, whatever it is, but you take control of your physiology. You must be functioning at your highest self, and you can't have any distractions from the physiology in your body. When you're attending your interview, you have to give it your utmost focus so that you can perform at your best. This slide is really important to me, and this, I think, is the meat of what we're doing. You must shine. This is your moment. Whether it's a non-training or a training job, several other people had the opportunity to be at this interview and they did not get in. You got in. So because you are here, you are having this interview, you must shine. Polish yourself up, prepare yourself as much as you can, and give it your very best shot. When you're going into that interview, go like the best performer that you are. We're medical people, so through our lives, through medical school, we've been performing. We're expert performers, so give it your best performance and shine. Shine like you've never shown in your life. Shine. Make sure that people are nodding when you're speaking because you're speaking sense. They're impressed by the words that are coming from you. And just shine. Enjoy yourself. Keep it in mind that, you know what? This is me, this is my moment, and I'm going to do really well. And let that be at the back of your mind. Banish all fear about what happens if you don't get in. That's tomorrow's problem. Today's problem is you're giving it your best because you're going to make sure that you get in. You're going to make sure that you get this job at the end of the interview. Some tips and tricks. So we're coming to the end now. For my interview, I didn't pick the first day because I thought if there were any internet problems, joining connection problems, I didn't want to be on the first day where they were trying to work things out. But I also didn't want to be on the last day because I didn't want to get the interviewers when they were tired. I didn't want to get them when it was around lunchtime. Didn't want them to be bored. I didn't want their coffee to have worn out. I also didn't want to be the first person of the day. So I picked a session that was about second or third of the day on the second day. And I found the timing was perfect for me. I didn't have to wait too long and be nervous for a very long time. It was just enough time to be nervous before the interview. I found this there was a video I came across in interview preparations, an orthopedic consultant, she talked about this and she said, sometimes when your lips are really dry in these situations, your lips stick to your teeth when you're trying to talk. And she said, if you put some lip balm on your teeth, then it doesn't do that. And I did that for the interview. I found it very helpful. I think it worked. I don't know if there's placebo effect, but you can try it if it's something that happens to you a lot. I get voice tremors, and this can happen even when I'm not nervous. Sometimes when I'm nervous, it happens. Can't always control it, but I've since learned how to control it. And one of the things you can do is breathing exercises. So do your box breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4 in, out, over 2 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4 in, out, over 2 seconds. Other things you can do, massage the muscles in your face, move them about, get ready, stretch yourself out, squeeze yourself to the floor, really stretch yourself out. Sort out your physiology. We talked about it, so it was in this slide at the end of the day. And do your best to relax. It sounds ridiculous and it's almost impossible, but you can trick your mind into believing that you're relaxed. So what you may find is that you're telling yourself you're relaxed, you feel relaxed, but you look at your hands and they're trembling. So the trick has worked. Even though inside you're a mush of nerves, on the outside you're relaxed. So you can trick your brain like that. Okay, so that brings us to the end